Hey guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, The Bright Side Girl, and today I'm doing another story time for you on the Twilight series. If you guys haven't watched my other story time videos, these are just fun videos where I talk about books and my more in-depth experience with them rather than just reading them and loving them, like something that outside that happened to them. And they're usually evolved around like the bigger fandom books because of friends and things and reading with people. I have Harry Potter story time that I will list down below in the comments if you're interested. But today we are going to talk about the Twilight series. There will be spoilers in this video, so if you have not read any of the Twilight series, go ahead and leave now if you don't want to be spoiled, because I'm going to be bouncing back and forth talking about things. I don't think I'm going to do a lot of spoilery things, but it's best just to leave now. Okay, so first off, for all the haters out there, I love Twilight. It is one of my all-time favorite series. It is Twilight, I think to date is my most reread book. It might be tied with Lost Voices, which is my favorite mermaid book, but it is one of my most reread books. And I know a lot of people talk about it. Yeah, I used to love it when I was younger, but then I got older and I didn't like it anymore. Please. I read this book when I was 20 years old, so I was not super young and influenced or anything like that, and I absolutely loved it. And I read this book because of people that were even older than me. So one of the cool things that happened with the Twilight series is how I kind of found out about it. My girlfriends that were younger than me at the time, that were closer to like 17, 16, were reading it, and I was like kind of interested, and they're like, yeah, you should read it, because the movie was getting ready to come out. So the movie was getting ready to come out and the last book was getting ready to come out, and I was like kind of interested in it. And then one of my clients at the salon that I worked at, who I really like, she was in her like mid-40s at the time, I think, and she was reading the third book in the series, and so was one of my other hairstylist clients as well. And we were like, guys, come on, isn't that for teenagers? Like, yeah, that was me. I said that. Rude. So they were like, yeah, I know, but it's so amazing. And I was like, okay. So you got to keep in mind too, at the time, like there was not a lot of YA. There just wasn't that much to choose from. And I'm not saying that Twilight was loved because of that, but it was something new and exciting and paranormal romance. And I had never really read like a paranormal romance before, or even like, I don't even think I've read like a romance book at this point, like a real like love story. So I decided to pick it up because of my clients, and I knew some other women that were like in their 50s that were liking it, and I completely devoured it. Like literally devoured it. I loved it so much. I read it so fast. It was just absolutely fantastic to me. I loved the story. I fell in love with Edward and Jacob, and Bella's okay, as we all know. But I got right in on the fandom and had to get the rest of the books. So I just immediately, this is the time where I wasn't reading like a ton. I'd read like probably a dozen books a year or so. So I went immediately and picked up New Moon, which was almost my favorite in the series. So when I was reading New Moon, my other two coworkers had started deciding to read it as well, so that was kind of fun. And I remember I was like halfway through it. At the time I was still living at my parents' house, and I went to their hammock to read, and I think it was on like page 200, and it's like almost 400 or 500 pages, and I didn't come in until I finished it. Bella is like running through the fountains in Italy to save Edward, and I was just like, what? So I come inside and I just have this like glazed over thing going on, and my mom is like, oh my god, were you outside the whole time? And I was like, yeah, I was reading this book, which at the time I didn't do stuff like that. Not that I wasn't a reader, but I just didn't like sit down and read an entire book in one sitting. I still don't do that very often. And she was just like, are you gonna be okay? And I was like, I don't really know. I don't know. And I went out and got Eclipse the next day, because in the back of New Moon there was like a teaser for Eclipse. I was actually going to take a break in between, and that can't happen because if you read the teaser in Eclipse, you're like, what? But I remember reading New Moon where you get to the part where Edward leaves her, and there are just these pretty much blank pages that have like October, November, December. I'd never seen anything like that, and I was just like, oh my god, she's so sad. and I was kind of going through like a heartbreak at the time too, and I'm like devastated, and they did such a good job with that part in the movie, by the way, because I was like, how are they going to transfer this feeling of like devastation that you get when you like flip the pages and the months are just going by. Then I immediately went and picked up Eclipse, and at this point my coworkers are, I think they're like reading New Moon or maybe still Twilight, and I go into the break room one day and one of my coworkers is sitting there and she's reading it on there, and I'm like literally having a conversation by myself, like not even about the book, just like talking to her, and I thought she was listening, and she's like this, and then she's like, what? And I was like, are you okay? She's like, I have no idea what's happening outside of this book. And like our brains were just like in Twilight the whole time, and it was so fun because that had never like happened at work before, and oh, it was just so much fun to have like my girlfriends and my coworkers and my clients all reading it together. Like that is what makes a really good book experience for me, and you just don't get that like super often. I at the time didn't really have very many like reading friends, and I wasn't reading as much, so I had such a blast. So then we get to Breaking Dawn, and at that point the movie is almost ready to come out, so I'm reading Breaking Dawn and I'm thinking like, I have no idea where she's going to go with this book. I'm getting pissed because I love Jacob, and I'm like, how is she gonna make this okay? Because I love Jacob, I want her with Edward, but I don't want Jacob to be heartbroken, and that's like the only option. So they get, Bella and Edward get married, and then I have all these like crazy theories in my head. So the point in the book where she like sees the raw chicken and it makes her throw up, or she like feels disgusted by it, I literally thought that she was like wanting to like eat human flesh. I don't know. My brain was going crazy when reading this book and trying to figure it out. I did not even occur to me at all that she was going to be pregnant. I was like, oh my god, she's like a vampire, but instead of wanting to suck blood, she wants to eat humans, and so that's happening. And then we get pregnant, and then they're like, the baby is gonna like eat her from the inside out, and that's like the only way to get the baby out is to do all these crazy, horrible, graphic things. And so we're at that part, and I call my friend at the time, who was the one promoting me to read it the most, and she's done with it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is not okay. Like, Jacob is gonna be heartbroken, Bella's probably gonna die, there's no way they're gonna get this baby out of her. Like, what the hell is they gonna do? Why did you let me read this? I hate it. Like, she is just like cracking up. She like won't give anything away, and I'm like mad at this point that she made me read this book. I'm like, I'm not gonna be okay with it. And then honestly, like, everyone was upset about the fact that, what was it, bonded or whatever you call it with Esme, but I was kind of okay with it because at that point I was so desperate for Jacob to not be sad anymore, and for me to like understand why he loved her so much. They weren't meant to be together, that I was totally okay with the fact that he bonded with Esme, even though it's kind of weird and creepy to think about now. And I was very happy with the ending. I really loved it. There wasn't like a huge battle scene and like drama and all that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed that she ended it in like this unexpected, like peaceful way, because I did not see it going there like at all. So after all of that, I take Twilight, like literally I'm just now done reading this, and I take Twilight and I'm like, Mom, you have to read this book. And she's like, I don't really think I like vampire books. And I'm like, no, I don't like vampire books either, but I love Twilight. Go, and I put it on her bed that's like all made pretty with the pillows. And then the next day I find it like back in my room. And then the next day I like put it back on her bed. And then the next day I find it in my room. And then I put it back on her bed. Finally she reads it and she like finishes it, and she comes out and she's like, oh my god, do you have the next one? And she like plows through them all. And so then me and my mom have this bonding experience. I've never read a book like with my mom as an adult before, so I've got all of these like adult women that are like pro Edward, and we love Edward and like Bella together, even though we like love Jacob more, like for me, you know, for myself. But it was just so fun. These fandom type experiences, like literally like my client that loved Twilight Twilight. I don't know if you guys can see it. They made Twilight earrings, like these ladies for craft fairs. So there's like a little jewel and a little bat over here, and then I have a little like crystal like the one that Edward gives Bella in the book. And then my dad bought me like Twilight keychains. I'm like, I'm an adult, like a solid adult at this point, and I'm getting all this fandom stuff. And there wasn't like booktube and things like that at the time, so that was like a weird thing that was happening, and I just enjoyed it so much, and it was so fun. And I will always be like pro Twilight, and I'll get all the hate that you want to throw at me, but Twilight made me happy, and it was there like when I was through a heartbreak. And I just remember reading it like in my car waiting in between like my acting classes, and I had like lavender in my car air freshener, so now lavender reminds me of Twilight. And the movies were just so fun. My entire family watched them, and I just have such fond memories. I love rereading these books. They're so easy. They get me out of a reading slump in no time. So yeah. So hopefully that was like a somewhat interesting story time. Nothing like major happened, but just some little fun incidents with my friends and family and interactions and things like that. So let me know if you guys feel that way about Twilight or any other book below down in the comments. I would love to talk about it because I love sharing story times and having these kinds of conversations with everybody. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time on The Bright Side. Bye!